Hi guys, and welcome back to In the Petite Kitchen with episode number 4. So today I am basing my recipe on actually something that my kids found online, and they baked it for me yesterday. It was so good that I had to just tweak the recipe a bit and recreate it with you today. And it is actually a chocolate chip cookie. It's honestly the most delicious, the easiest, because they did it and it came out like the best cookie ever. Karma, my daughter, was telling me it tastes like those Ben's cookies that we usually eat in London. So to start with, we're gonna use some light, soft brown sugar. Now the original recipe asks for 2 cups of sugar, 1 cup of soft brown sugar and 1 cup of white granulated sugar. I'm gonna replace the white granulated sugar by some golden castor sugar, and I'm using just half a cup. So 1 cup of soft brown sugar and half a cup of golden castor sugar. So this one can be replaced by any white sugar or any castor sugar or any other type of sugar that you want. So I'm gonna put these here together, and I have 1 cup of butter, which is approximately 226 grams of butter, unsalted and softened. So I left it out for a couple of hours for it to be really soft. So I'm just gonna, I'm gonna bring my mixer. Just gonna put it here, and I'm gonna just place everything in it. So we start with the butter, and then we're gonna add the sugar, and we will whip them together to have a very soft and fluffy mixture. So I wanted to show you. So this is the paddle attachment, and I happen to have the paddle attachment with a silicone bit, which I really like. If you don't have it, just use a rubber spatula to scrape scrape the sides as you go. Today we have in the kitchen Talia. So this is my Talia, my assistant today. So just make sure that this is attached. I'm gonna whip this until it's light and nice and fluffy. So this step is called creaming. It's when we whip, or it's beating. So technically you should be able to do this step with a wooden spoon, where we want the butter and the sugar to really get mixed well together and to become light and fluffy. To that, I'm gonna add the eggs and the vanilla. I'm gonna show you how this mixture looks like now. It's nice and light and fluffy. Now, since it contains brown sugar, it's not white, but usually when you start with yellow butter and then you add the flour, you add the sugar, and you whip them together, you end up with a very light mixture. So look at that. So I'm just gonna put it back in and add the eggs one at a time with the vanilla. So make sure to scrape the sides, and we're gonna mix in the egg one at a time, mixing well after each addition. So at this stage, we don't worry about overbeating because we don't have the flour, so it doesn't matter. So I'm just gonna crack the first egg. Now we need to put 2 tablespoons of vanilla. Just gonna squirt, but 2 tablespoons is the amount. I know my my ratios. So I'm just gonna give this a good mix. And then we'll add the second egg. Okay. We always start at a low speed and build up the speed. At this stage, again, we don't have the flour, so it doesn't matter. And that is it. So we just keep this here on the sides. We won't be needing the machine anymore. Just need the bowl. The flour we'll incorporate it by hand. So I'm just gonna make sure that everything is in our lovely bowl. And we can put this aside. And so that is the beautiful mix, and that is how it looks like. It's nice and light, and it smells really delicious with the butter and the vanilla. So creamy. Now at this stage, if you feel it's curdling, don't worry, because as soon as we put in the flour, it will all come in together. Now, in the same bowl that I used for my sugar, I'm gonna have 3 cups of flour, just plain flour. Now, the way to measure cups with flour is, what I do is I just scoop, shake and level, and then put it in here. Now, if you would like to use spelt flour, it would really work nicely, or any flour that you want. If it's a very, if it's a flour with a lot of fiber, you would want to take into account that fiber dries, it absorbs more water. So you would need to add a bit more liquid, whether it's more egg or butter or something. So for this flour, we're gonna add both bicarbonate of soda and baking powder, and a pinch of salt, and a bit of cocoa powder. So I have all my ingredients here. I have my lovely measuring spoons. So we need half a teaspoon of baking powder. So that is my baking powder. Now the thing about this recipe, you can do it in 2 ways. You can either bake it straight ahead, or you can chill it in the fridge and bake it in an hour. So when you chill it, you will have thicker cookies. If you bake straight ahead, you will have flatter cookies. So it really depends on how you like them. To my flour, I have added 1 teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda. I'm gonna add 1 teaspoon of salt. And we have, I've added half a teaspoon. I'm gonna just show you, but I've already added it in. So it's half a teaspoon of baking powder. Now, we just need to mix this together. Now, I ideally need a whisk. I'm just gonna grab my whisk. So that's my lovely whisk. Just gonna whisk everything together, and I'm gonna add a tablespoon or 2 of very good quality dark chocolate. So I have this lovely Valrhona cocoa powder, unsweetened, and it's so dark and lovely. So I'm just gonna whisk everything. So I'm just gonna whisk everything together. Okay. So now we have the egg, butter, sugar mixture with the vanilla. We have the flour and the baking powder, baking soda, salt, cocoa mixture that's well whisked together. And we have the main character of the cookies, which is the chocolate chips. Now, this recipe calls for 2 cups of chocolate chunks, chips, whatever you prefer, whatever you have on hand. What I had today on hand was some leftover peanut butter chips, some white chocolate chips, and I've used a very good quality 70% dark chocolate chips. So we have all of these 3 ingredients. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fold the dry ingredients into my my wet mix. Just gonna put everything like this. So you see, it's such an easy recipe. Now the oven has been preheated to 190 degrees Celsius, or I believe it's 375 Fahrenheit. And now I'm gonna give the recipe in both cups, and so metric and in cups. I'm just gonna mix everything together. And then at the end, we fold in the chocolate chips. You will see the mixture is coming together. It's dry, it's a dough. Now these cookies freeze beautifully, so you can make them, keep them in the freezer, and bake them when you need to, when you're craving some cookies. We've had them the other day with some delicious canvas gelato ice cream. So this is all mixed. It's a firm mix, okay? And then we're just gonna add. Are you ready? Talia, are you ready?
Yes.
We're just gonna add all of these yummy chocolates.
Yay!
Mama's gone mad. So I'm just gonna mix everything together. And I'm gonna grab some gloves and I'm just gonna mix everything by hand and show you how to prepare the cookies on these lined baking trays. Okay, so I have my gloves on now and I'm just mixing everything together. Now this is such an easy recipe because the ingredients are so basic that we all have them at home. Now the soft brown sugar has a bit of molasses, but you know all brown sugars have a bit more moisture in them, and that gives to a more moist and delicious chewy cookie. Now when we bake them, we have to make sure not to over bake them, and we have to bake them for 8 to 10 minutes. As soon as they seem to be browning on the edges, they might look a bit uncooked, but they're not. We have to remove them, keep them on the tray for a few minutes, and they will keep on baking as they cool. So the best way to measure is to take a spoon, my favorite soup spoon, and just make some balls like this and place them on the tray. And have them spaced out because the cookie will indeed spread. Now you can have them smaller or bigger depending, but they're nice. I might do 2 sizes on 2 different trays because the baking time will differ. So those extra ones that I'm gonna actually place in the freezer and I'm gonna chill them to have at a later time. So I'm gonna obviously split them up into different containers once they chill. This is the final batch of the cookies. I'm just gonna chill them separate. I'm gonna chill them like this, and then when they're hard, I'll put them in different containers, small containers. And before baking, you just have to take them out of the freezer, let them sit a bit to thaw a bit, and then you can bake them. Okay, so I just wanted to show you the version of these cookies without the cocoa powder. These are the cookies that my kids made for me, and they are absolutely delicious. Still moist and chewy from yesterday. So these are the ones that are without the cocoa powder. Now mine are more of an adult version. They are still hot, so it's a bit too early to judge, but I couldn't resist and I took a bite, and I just wanted you to see, don't know if the camera focuses, just wanted you to see how moist and delicious and tender this cookie is. It's really so delicious. Now, if you have watched my video all the way to the end, you deserve to know something. I think I added a bit too much baking powder because the cookie looks a bit puffed versus this cookie that looks less puffed. Now the funny thing is that I had told my kids to chill the dough before baking, and the ones I did today, I just rolled them and baked them, and they're still that puffy. So I think I added a bit too much baking powder, but it doesn't matter because honestly, look at that. It's so delicious. Thank you for watching.